And whatever you grasp and assimilate will have to be transmitted to the mind, so that the mind will become more and more emotionally attuned to whatever your devotional pursuit is. Now this particular wholesome and consistent incessant worship, if your worship and devotion will have to become wholesome, what do you have to do about it? Expand it, extend it. From the half an hour or 1 hour of puja or worship that you conventionally, customarily do. If half an hour act of yours, mark my words, if a half-hour act of worship of yours, half-hour act of yours can become a worship, can you not make all the 24-hour acts as worship? Yes or no? Yes. Then what prevents you from making it? Why do you constrict or restrict the worship into half an hour, taking flower materials like flowers, etc., and placing them at the altar of an idol? This is an act and you call it worship. Then can you not transform and convert all the acts of yours into a wholesome and incessant, unbroken worship? Now Sreemad Bhagavatam discusses and reveals this art and process of wholesome and incessant worship. How is it to be done? Whatever act you are performing with your body, with your mind, with any part of the sensory organs, either by nature or by inherited or acquired tendencies, whatever may be the act, physical, sensory, oral, mental, intellectual, all of them I offer as a dedication to my Supreme Lord. Will you have this wholesome attitude about the whole of your activity and interaction throughout the day is a question. What is your answer? Yes or no? Yes. No, let all of you say yes. Yes. Very weak. In Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna says, Mat karma kridu, mat paramaha, mat bhaktaha, sangavarjidaha. Mat karma kridu means, let all your activities be performed for me, for my sake. We are all born not because of our wish and will. We are existing on the earth not because of our merit. We are breathing the air not given to us, bestowed upon us by any of our forefathers or parents. So our whole life is in this world, and the world is a creation, a preservation of God. Our own body is only a very small part of it, a mustard-like thing in the whole universe. So in the whole of the world created and preserved by God, living in a body which is also evolved and preserved by Him, whatever you do, is it not godly and for the sake of God, or is it for your sake? So please eliminate this feeling, I am living for my purpose, I am living for my this, my that. There is no I and there is no mine. It's all God and godly, divine and divine, nothing other than that. Now, in other words, it's a question of dissolving your selfishness and ego and possessiveness on the one hand, and installing godliness and the universal expansion in your mind, in your heart. Now the question is, are you prepared to undergo this expansion? Would you like it or dislike it? Or will you woo and seek it? All that is required is that. Anybody who seeks this kind of a devotion, for him it is available. Let us continue to discuss the subject. Now, having said this much, this is wholesome devotion. See how Vedavyasa and Sreemad Bhagavatam introduces one subject after the other. Now he has spoken about devotion in this manner. Initially he said, what did he say initially? For one who is constantly fearful about the world, Achyudasya padambujopasanam atra nityam. The worship of the lotus feet of the infallible Lord alone is the source of refuge, he said. That was a devotional statement. That devotional statement was expanded to make the devotee and the devotion absolutely wholesome and divine. There should be an unbrokenness so far as the devotional pursuit is concerned. Now, he tackles the same subject by bringing in the element of wisdom, which is for the intelligence. At every point of time you will find Srimad Bhagavatam blends and fuses devotion with spiritual wisdom, and both of them with an ample measure of dispassion, which is another lofty spiritual trait to complete the devotee and the devotion. So this is what he says. Bhayam dvidiya bhiniveshadasyat ishadapedasya vibaryayo asmritihi tanmayayado buddha abhajettam bhaktiyai gayesham gurudevatatma. You may be a lofty devotee. You may be fond of God, loving God. You may be completely dedicating yourself, everything of yours to God. Don't think that it will complete your devotional mission or devotional pursuit or goal. It has to be properly nourished. It has to be properly tended. It has to be refined. That refinement and enlightenment are necessary. How will you get the refinement and enlightenment? This is what Sreemad Bhagavatam in 18,000 verses provides you at every point. So see how he discusses. Bhayam dvidiya bhiniveshadasyat ishadapedasya viparyayo asmritihi. Whenever you allow your mind to recoil from Ishad Abedasya, from the thought of God, from the reliance of God, from the feeling of restfulness in God, as the entire world is resting on the substratum called God. Your own personal life, including the body, the biological aggregate, the inner constituents like the mind, intelligence and ego, all are actually resting upon God. This is the actual truth. Do you agree or disagree? This is the actual truth. Suppose your mind or your intelligence falls from this perception, falls from this recognition. It slips. Ishad abedasya. When you slip from the thought, the reliance on God, the supreme reality, the Parama Kalyana Nidhi, as I would like to put it, Srimad Bhagavata describes it. Viparyayaha asmritihi. You will not be able to remember him. You should understand the whole world is completely subsisting upon God. And you, a part of the world, are equally subsisting on him. So you must have a universal on the one hand and a ceaseless and continuous recognition that everything is God and that reliance should always be fostered. Suppose for any reason the mind or the intelligence slips from it, viparyayaha asmritihi. There will be a break. Viparyayaha means what? An adverse or a reverse line of thinking. What is that? You start thinking what? I am the body. Are you the body or the body is yours? I have a body. The body is mine. I am not the body. I is a notion. I is an idea. I is a cognition. I is a comprehension. I is a perception. It is an experience. It is a realization. Do you mean to say that dead body can realize or experience? What is the difference between a dead body and a living body? The aggregate called the body. But somehow, the moment your mind turns away devotionally from God, automatically this contrary notion grips you. I am the body. Bah. If I am the body, all the relatives and relations of the body become mine. The house becomes mine, the car becomes mine, so many things become mine except God. God is not mine, but all the other things are mine. This is the feeling we have. That viparyayaha, just see how he starts instilling spiritual wisdom and spiritual messages here. Ishadapedasya viparyayaha asmritihi. Smriti means remembrance. Reflecting upon, remembering continuously God. Asmritihi means disremembrance. You are not able to remember. Bhayam dvidiya bhiniveshadasyat. The moment you allow yourself to think of a second factor in this world, that second factor will always be frightening to you. You will be fearful. How long shall I stop to make you understand this? Srimad Bhagavatam, Vedavyasa, drives home to tell you very clearly what? Bhayam dvidiya bhiniveshadasyat. Mind you, this is a devotional spiritual scripture. It is the thought of a second factor that there exists something other than one, other than one, other than one. I have a body, so many others have bodies. So I am afraid of their bodies. The moment there is an existence separate from you, second to you, bhayam dvidiya abhiniveshada syat. When the mind is gripped with the idea of something different or something additional, a second factor, suddenly fear crops up. And it can rise to any proportion like a wildfire. Bhayam dvidiya abhiniveshada syat ishada behedasya viparyayo asmrtihi tanmayayato buddha abhajetam. How do we get the idea of many? Shall I explain to you? Will you be with me? See, there are a few expressions. What are they? I, you, he, she, it, they. All these are pronouns. One is the first personal pronoun. The other is the second personal pronoun. The third personal pronouns are a few. I, you, he, she, it, they. Don't you think the whole world and world objects, including Panchabhutas, can be contained in these? Represented by these? Up to this is clear. The next point you should come with me. What is that? I is an idea. It is not arising in our body, nose or eye. It is an idea. The idea can be ideated not by matter and energy. So it comes from that presence and power which animate and activate the body. Am I clear? Really? It is an idea. I is an idea. It's a word. The word is an oral expression of the idea, the thought within my mind. So the I arises from my consciousness. That consciousness itself is a spiritual presence. Whether it is I or whether it is you, he, she, it, they, are they not uniformly ideas? Huh? And ideas come from where? From the ideating source. So whether I refer to I, you, he, she, it, they, others, etc., all of them are ideas emerging from the same consciousness. So what do they imply? Please speak to me from your intelligence. I don't want any clouding here. All are ideas generated by the mind, by the consciousness. And whenever any idea comes, any word comes, any thought comes, the thought always denotes the thinker, is it not? So the ideator, namely the consciousness. So if all ideas, including I idea, you idea, he idea, she idea, it idea, they idea, others idea, all of them are ideas. And the source and the implication of all these ideas are my own within. The sentience, the consciousness. How many things are there in this world? Boliye na thoda. Huh? And apart from idea and understanding, do you have anything? When you refer to my father, what is this father? Suppose you have a father and you don't have an idea about him. So whether you call it father or mother, call him father or call mother, whatever it may be, they are all ideas. And the ideas are originating in our mind and they remain only in the mind. Does any idea issue forth from the body and travel? Boliye na thoda. So is there any second factor like he, she, it, they, you, etc.? Altogether only one consciousness is there. This will be explained further. Tan mayayato buddha abhajetam. It is all because of the illusory power. That illusory power of God or the supreme reality. There can be so many powers. Any kind of a product will have a certain property. Salt has a certain property, sugar has a certain property, sodium has a certain property, chlorine has a certain property. Similarly, consciousness also has its property. What is that property? That is called the illusory power. It can bring about any kind of an ocean, any kind of a manifestation, any kind of a display. Generally it is considered to be aghadana ghadana padiyasi maya. Whatever can never be related or linked or conjuncted, it will be able to conjunct. You have a dream and you are a man or a woman. You dream, a man dreams, I am a woman, I was very young, I got married. What is it? Is it related to a fact? You are actually a man, but the mind produces a dream where you become a girl and you get married also. See what happens? You are lying somewhere and you have a dream that you have gone away. Just like the mind produces a kind of an illusion in dream, the consciousness also can produce a long-standing common dream. Tan mayayado. This kind of a feeling of a second factor, that means feeling of many factors of existence, the manifoldness as a whole, the plurality of existence, the multiplicity of existence. This is only an idea which the mind generates. And the reason for it is the Maya of the Supreme Reality. Therefore, Buddha, the man of discrimination, the intelligence, rational man, the seeker, abhajayattam bhaktyahi gayesham guru devatatma. In order to get over this difficulty, this kind of a fear, perpetual fear, you have to seek refuge under God. You have to worship Him. But your normal worship will be inadequate, insufficient. You may have some customary and conventional worship. Maybe nobody has instructed you. After all, the worship commences from the mind. It is addressed to the invisible, infinitely distant God. Even in our worship, it is highly scientific. You are supposed to worship what? A deity. And there is a representation like an idol or a picture. Ultimately, as part of the worship, what do you have to do? You have to take the flower, take it to your heart, smear it with the devotion springing from your heart and place it. And the devotion alone becomes the offer to God. The material remains there. Am I clear or not? Huh? When you throw a flower or place a flower, do you mean to say God comes and takes the flower? You remove it the next day. Then along with the offer, bhaktyupahridam, tadaham bhaktyupahridam, ashnami prayatatmanaha. In Gita, Sri Krishna says, you have to besmear it with devotion. This besmearing takes place in your mind. And at the end of the worship, what are you supposed to do? You should consider God as your own self. It is the self that you contemplate upon God. You cannot see Him. You cannot easily experience Him, realize Him. So you take a madhyama, a medium. It is just like having a mirror. Glass is manufactured by us. It is properly cut and coated with mercury. Then it is framed. We put it on our wall. We stand before it. Is it because the mirror needs it or we need it? Boliye na thoda. What for do you need the mirror? Because you cannot see your face. So with the mirror you can see the reflected face. So you can shave. Actually you are shaving the mirror's reflection. And where does it fall? On your face. In the same manner, I am not able to see God. I am not able to feel Him and realize Him. So I make an image of His. And to the image I address my worship. But really I intend to worship God, the omnipresent. This is only a medium. And that omnipresent God can only be felt, touched, realized only in my heart. So it is actually God, an epithet of the self. Ultimately, you have to realize that it is all your mind and put the flowers on your own head. This is how you conclude your worship. Am I clear or not? Have you thought about it? I am not explaining it now, but it comes as part of Sreemad Bhagavatam in this dialogue itself. What is meant by a puja? We are trying to purify our own body by touching the different parts, Anganyasa and Karanyasa, to purify all the different parts of the body, get into the mind, invoke the mind's own power, the mind's own sublimity, the mind's own devotional attunement, and then smear it with the idol, take every flower, another exercise, and devotion alone is implied in all these exercises. And this devotion wells forth from your own mind and from your own heart, or from the flower and the idol. Thoda boliye na. So you have to be properly guided. And where from will you get a guidance? From a proper teacher, a Sadguru. So the devotee has to seek instructions from a Guru, approach him. And in what manner? Guru Devata Atma. The Guru is a physical, visual representation of your own invisible self. Are you following my words? And what about the idea? Are you hearing my words or feeling the impact of the idea? See, you should consider him. Yourself you cannot see. So you are going to a teacher who is a self-realized person. She understands that he is the self. You don't understand. So he is actually a visual representative of your own self-realization which you seek, the self that you have. Further, you also have to consider him as God, Devata. We all start from God. Start with devotion, reliance upon God. So if you want your devotion to grow, become broader and broader, deeper and deeper, loftier and loftier, undergo a gradual process of refinement, expansion, elevation, sublimity, enlightenment and fulfillment, then you have to go to a teacher. Discuss with him whatever you want to know. Put all your doubts and ask him, what is this puja? In what way is it related to the all-pervading God? I am only taking a flower. When I detach it from its place, I have practically plucked. That means what? Huh? It was beautifully standing there. Practically you have killed, is it not? What is this? Was not God there in the flower? Why do you dislodge him? I think there is a lot for thinking. Understand it very much. When you start applying the rational part, the inquiring part, the knowing part of it into your exercises, the whole picture changes. So, Guru Devata Atma. So, initially we are worshippers, relayers, we rely upon God. The moment you come to this stage, go to a Guru and the entire worship of God gets transformed into a worship, an attitudinal worship of Guru. This is how you have to proceed. And get instructions, be enlightened, live in his proximity, associate with him very intimately, tell him the problems, the needs, the conflicts, the enquiries, whatever you want to know, relate them before him and get sufficient clarification. He is available for you for an interaction. Normally, all the different aspects of worship remain only unilateral. Worship is only a practice of the worshipper. Though it is addressed to God, God remains elusive there. Elusive. Am I clear or not? Yes. This elusive, discuss with him whatever you want to know. Put all your doubts and ask him, what is this puja? In what way is it related to the all-pervading God? I am only taking a flower. When I detach it from its place, I have practically plucked. That means what? Huh? It was beautifully standing there. Practically you have killed, is it not? What is this? Was not God there in the flower? Why do you dislodge him? I think there is a lot for thinking. Understand it very much. When you start applying the rational part, the inquiring part, the knowing part of it into your exercises, the whole picture changes. So, Guru Devata Atma. So, initially we are worshippers, relayers, we rely upon God. The moment you come to this stage, go to a Guru and the entire worship of God gets transformed into a worship, an attitudinal worship of Guru. This is how you have to proceed. And get instructions, be enlightened, live in his proximity, associate with him very intimately, tell him the problems, the needs, the conflicts, the enquiries, whatever you want to know, relate them before him and get sufficient clarification. He is available for you for an interaction. Normally, all the different aspects of worship remain only unilateral. Worship is only a practice of the worshipper. Though it is addressed to God, God remains elusive there. Elusive. Am I clear or not? This elusiveness we have to break, and we have to give a concrete form and a shape to it. So this is how you have to proceed. And bhaktya ekaya isham guru devatatma.